So there have been several changes when it comes to AIF regulation. So according to you, how does it impact to a trustee?
So, from a regulator's perspective, they need to strengthen the guidelines wherein the investor needs to be protected. Since we are seeing a lot of action from a AIF perspective. So, new guidelines have been issued by SEBI from a perspective that the investor is protected. So, these new guidelines, what they mean for a debenture trustee is that they will have to look at more people from a compliance perspective, from a legal perspective, look into documentations much more than they used to see. So we have also strengthened our team accordingly to the guidelines. So according to the onerosity of the guidelines, we've put in a team that helps us look at every guideline with a microscope and only then apply for an AIF in SEBI. Post that, on a quarterly basis, when an AIF needs to comply, we need to see that a lot of the AIFs are sure about the guidelines and they've understood the new guidelines. So that's a new role that is being played by the debenture trustee.
So recently there have been few announcements by Finance Minister also when it comes to GIFT City, even when it comes to foreign investors. So what is your take when it comes to AIF companies like this, their entry to GIFT City, how it's going to help the investors, and what role does Beacon Trusteeship would play in this kind of landscape?
So if we see a total of about 1300 AIFs existed in India till now, till March 23. SEBI found it relevant to give the opportunity to GIFT City also. And GIFT City was then allowed to get AIF guidelines rolling. So there's a lot of money coming into India in the normal routes. So GIFT City was one more avenue that the government of India opened for AIFs. So a lot of trustees have taken interest and opened their shops in the GIFT City in Gandhinagar. Similarly, Beacon has also taken advantage of that guideline. We've also opened an office in GIFT City. So we've been helping AIFs to set up shop through the GIFT City and make it possible for them to get investments and get those investments for India.
So, जो guidelines CBDT का है, where they have set tax when it comes to IFC city like Gujarat, the tax can be exempted by the foreign investors and by the AIF companies. Would that kind of tax exemption will also happen for trustee?
So, from a trustee perspective, we need to ensure that the compliances are done in GIFT City as well as what they were done in India. So from a tax perspective, CBDT keeps coming out with their guidelines. We have to see to it that those guidelines are followed. So there's a tax-free component that is being offered to AIFs. So whoever opens a GIFT City office, even a trustee like us, so we will also be given those benefits.
Okay. So I want to ask few technical questions. For that I have to read, so to make sure that the right regulation I am quoting.
Sure.
So I want to know currently what is your opinion on the SEBI recent circular that was about issuers and the appointment of nominee directors. The circular highlights the absence of statutory mandate in certain cases, preventing issuers from amending their principal documents. So in your view, how can regulation address such situation while ensuring necessary compliance without unduly burdening the issuers?
Okay, so I'd like to start with a brief background on the provision of appointment of a nominee director. The right to appoint a nominee director by a debenture trustee was initially made available under the updated DT regulations of 2003. Subsequently, the regulations were then updated in 2017, which specified the appointment of a nominee director on occurrence of 2 consecutive defaults in payment of interest and default in creation of a security. and or default in redemption. Then after that, similar provisions were incorporated in Regulation 23(6) of the SEBI guidelines, 21 NCS regulations, to place an obligation on the issuer to amend articles of association that requires its board of directors to appoint a director, a person nominated by the debenture trustee, and make necessary changes in executed debenture trust deeds. To further strengthen this provision, it has been mandated that the issuer will appoint a nominee director within 1 month of receiving such a request from the debenture trustee. July 4, 23, that is being referred by you, only provides a relaxation for issuers that are not companies incorporated under different statutes or are also under the purview of the regulator for other issuances, whose director with prior approval, if there is a prior approval required from the President of India, then that's a different case to case. So there is a differentiation for those who are not applicable to these guidelines. So there are 3 such types of issuers. So I'll give you a layman example, like the NHAI. NHAI has come out through the NHAI Act. There are others like the PFC, REC. So when a sovereign issuer is involved, then they may not be able to comply to these guidelines. So, but SEBI wants something to be done. So what they've done is they need a letter from them saying that we will comply with these guidelines. But what we'll do is we'll appoint a director from our board as a nominee director. So they don't need to get a external nominee director, they'll do it themselves. But they need to give that undertaking to us at the time of the issue. So that's the difference.
So just for my understanding, I want to know, like you quoted earlier, there are a few registered SEBI registered, debenture trustee companies. When it comes to such companies, first of all, is there any kind of rating in place for these companies?
So if a issuer wants to raise money, there are listed, unlisted, rated, unrated. All kinds of issuers come to raise money in the market.
So what do you mean by rated, unrated?
So when you ask for rating, meaning you have to be rated by a rating agency.
Yeah.
So in India, if you go to see if you are better rated, like a AAA.
Yeah.
So you get money in the bond markets at the cheapest price, even cheaper than a loan. That's why most of the issuers who are AAA, AA, they come to the bond markets.
Okay. And that is that can be given to even the regulated and unregulated companies?
Yes.
Okay. So coming to the next question, which I want to understand from you, how do you envision the role of debenture trustees evolving and overseeing the events mentioned in Regulation 15(1)(e), and what challenges and opportunities might arise for debenture trustee in fulfilling this responsibility?
So from that guideline that you mentioned, 15(1)(e), now the debenture trustee's role is to, in the issuers that have been exempted, they have to see to it that these guidelines are followed by giving an undertaking. In case of the others, they need to appoint a nominee director within 1 month of the default that is occurred. So this guideline is now pushed on to the debenture trustee. The debenture trustee has the onus of getting it followed and complied with. So that onus has shifted to the debenture trustee to get it done.
Okay. Again, just for my understanding, I want to know, like how we discussed on the rating front, when it comes to the active debenture trustee, is there a kind of a guideline where the trustee is not being active, or a guideline where they are not active for a year or 18 months, how we discussed on AIF having a certain regulation given by SEBI कि अगर आप 18 महीने तक active नहीं है तो you need to give the answer why you're not active, or you need to wind up. Is that similar for debenture trustee or no?
So debenture trustees need to pay a fee every 3 years.
Okay.
And before which there is an audit conducted. It used to be conducted every 2 or 3 years previously. But currently the SEBI audits are being conducted every year. In fact, I would say at any point of time, SEBI may ask you on the follow-up, or they may come and visit you if you're following all the SEBI guidelines or not.
Okay.
So in fact, there could be a concurrent audit also. So there is a better compliance that is needed at the debenture trustee level, as well as the company who is issuing a bond or a debenture in India. So SEBI has laid out guidelines, but now there is stricter enforcement also that is being done by SEBI. So that augurs well for the markets also.
So when you say stricter enforcement is there, is it to make sure that right companies or right trustee comes in the market, or why there's more stricter, especially when it comes to debenture trustee?
So debenture trustee is a extended arm of the SEBI, which is the regulator. Now SEBI can't be doing everything.
True.
So they've appointed these arms who can help them to regulate the markets. So we are an intermediary of SEBI, licensed by SEBI to follow those guidelines that exist in the market. Now, if you don't follow these guidelines, there is SEBI who will come and reprimand you. So also from the issuer's perspective, there needs to be a lot of compliance. So previously we used to see that there is less importance of compliance in India, but that compliance has dramatically increased now over the last couple of years. So that's the role SEBI also wants to play. In fact, RBI also wants to play that role. So effectively the extended arms of SEBI, the intermediaries like us, we will have to play that role on their behalf.
True. Okay. So in looking into the future, how do you see the role of SEBI and other regulatory bodies evolving to adapt to the changing dynamics of financial industry and address the specific challenges faced by issuers in different categories?
So SEBI and the other regulators have become extremely active over the last couple of years. Not to say that they were not active, but they've become fairly active now. And also they are much ahead of their peers across the world. In fact, coming out with regulations on Bitcoin and stuff like that, cryptocurrency, SDI guidelines on securitization. So the regulators in India have started thinking much ahead of the regulators worldwide.
True.